Outside of the Echo Chamber, the official I Dream of Indie Games podcast is brought to you by you, the gamer. If you'd like to join our mission to support indie visibility, head over to patreon.com/idreamofindiegames and bring a voice to the voiceless ones in gaming. Greetings, Indie Warriors, and welcome back to what we strive to make the most entertaining and informative indie gaming show on the web. You are tuned in to the official I Dream of Indie Games podcast. This is Outside of the Echo Chamber. I am your host, as I am every week, Old Gamer Joe, and joining me today is the Anointed One, Silent Signs, and the Lord of Shadows, Barely Magic Mike. Our mission is to celebrate the incredible indie gaming scene, shining a light on its talented developers and publishers. We bring you daily reviews, first impressions, top 10 lists, the biggest sales going on in the indie scene, and AA as well. And of course, this very show, Outside of the Echo Chamber. A huge thank you to everyone for supporting independent content. Patreon.com/idreamofindiegames. You get Discord access. You get this show 3 days early. You get shoutouts at the end of every video we produce. So much more content. Your new indie gaming community awaits you there. And don't forget, you can listen to this show in public feeds 3 days later on Spotify, YouTube Music, and officially on YouTube as well, where you can leave us a comment and we'll read those at the end of every single episode going forward. In today's episode, we'll dive into the latest indie gaming news, share our recent gameplay adventures, present today's question of the day, and of course, let you know what you can expect the week ahead right here on the channel. This week we are discussing gaming addiction and whether it's an issue that should be taken very seriously or is perhaps a bit overblown. Silent Signs, how are you? We had an old-timey trip through a historical village this weekend, didn't we?
Before we get into that, I want to be the Lord of Shadows.
Sorry, no, that title is for Mike this week. I make a new one up there's no thought put into it, it's just bullshit.
I want to be the Lord of Shadows. Yeah, we went to an old-time little village that's local to us here in New England. We actually have quite a few of those around here.
We do, yes. This is a very historical area, I guess.
New England loves to celebrate
their history.
The past.
Yes, so we did that. In fact, we saw some mills, we saw some horses, and some giant horse manure.
We went to the blacksmith.
The blacksmith?
That was
horse
cool.
Manure.
Oh, yes, yeah. Yes. This place has actual, horse and carriage rides that you can take, and the horses are just shatting all over the place.
As they would.
They need someone to walk around with a bucket after the horse and just clean up the giant piles of shit. Someone's got to do it. Someone has to do these terrible jobs, I cleaned toilets for years, so I'm used to it. Shit doesn't bother me.
You get that job if you're late to work for a couple days.
So, I like the horse ride, though it didn't seem active. There was horse shit, but I didn't actually see the horse this time.
But there was evidence that they were there.
Yeah, exactly. It was steamy, it was fresh, so I don't know how we missed the horse. They're usually quite easy to spot. But did you enjoy it otherwise, Silent Signs?
It's always a good time. It's basically a museum, a walkable museum. So it's pretty cool. There's essentially actors LARPing their entire day.
Yeah, pretending they're from that time period.
Folks from the 17 and 1800s making stew and cheese and tending to the fields. It's pretty interesting.
I was thinking to myself while I was there, I wonder how many people really grill these actors and quiz them and test their knowledge. But I have to say, the girl in one of the houses that was talking about cheese, she really knew her cheeses.
She must have been like a cheese connoisseur.
She probably wants nothing to do with cheese by the time she gets home after creating it there over that fire all day. But it was fun. I enjoyed it. Less fun, we watched with our daughter The Tooth Fairy, which is this old rock movie. I don't know why she wanted to watch this, but it was absolutely terrible. I don't know if you got any enjoyment. And, clearly not. You walked out on it. And for some reason, it became a hockey movie in the last 45 minutes.
Yeah, well, okay. So first things first, I hate hockey. I always have. I always will. So that right there is strike one.
Even professional hockey? Well, your brother played for many years, right? So.
I spent so much time in a hockey rink as a child. It's not even funny. I still can't feel my toes. So that's already strike one. Strike two is The Rock is a terrible actor. I'll say it. He sucks.
I don't know if he sucks.
He sucks.
He's good at
He's
what
not
he
an
does.
actor.
He is what he is.
He might be a nice guy. I don't know.
I feel like in the Fast and the Furious, like that's probably where his vibe is most appropriate.
His like sweet spot. Yeah, maybe if it's like fast paced action, but this is a children's movie. The only redeeming quality of The Tooth Fairy, which I'm sure if you haven't watched by now, you're probably never going to watch. I never thought I would watch it. Is that Stephen Merchant is it in it? AKA
yes, Wheatley.
Wheatley from Portal 2.
Yeah.
So
strangely looks like the robot.
every 5 minutes I was like, Wheatley!
And sounds just like the character and everything.
Yeah.
So that was amusing.
It's just Stephen Merchant.
Yeah, that was a really bad movie, though. We watched a better movie after that, though. At least I liked the movie. We got it on the 4K Blu-ray fancy version of Alita. What did you think, Silent Science? This was your first time seeing it.
It was my first time seeing it. It was, story was there. It was all right.
It was all right. Okay.
It was definitely better than The Tooth Fairy.
Yeah, certainly better than The Tooth Fairy. It's actually based on an anime, Battle Angel.
Totally makes sense. I almost would have preferred it as an anime.
It's great. It's really great as an anime. I highly recommend it. As most things, when you translate it into a big budget Hollywood movie, it's not as good, but it's still visually spectacular to watch.
Any sort of live action interpretation of anime is bad. I'm going to make another broad, sweeping
Man, a lot of bold
statement
statements today here.
Name me one good live action anime interpretation. I'll wait.
I mean, I thought that one was pretty good, but other than that, yeah, no, you're probably right.
I heard the One Piece live action was pretty good, the Netflix one, but I don't know. I don't really know anime stuff very well.
Me neither. I guess if I'm being honest, I'm just really jaded by the Death Note one.
That was pretty bad. Well, there have been multiple attempts at Death Note, but really the only way to watch Death Note is the actual anime, which is fantastic. But I would get into something like One Piece if it weren't for the fact that you have to watch like maybe 1,000+ episodes to get caught up in it.
I feel like a lot of animes are like that. I don't get it.
Same with Dragon Ball. I loved Dragon Ball as a kid, but to catch up now, I have to go through Dragon Ball Z, Dragon Ball GT.
Wasn't the Avatar movie, not the Blue Aliens, but the other Avatar movie, wasn't that also exceptionally terrible?
Probably. Oh, I know which one you're talking about.
Last Airbender.
Didn't Shyamalan do that? I think that was M. Night.
Yes.
Yeah, it was like his first like big budget movie, and it was apparently terrible. I can't say for sure because I didn't watch that, but probably right. Yeah.
Word of mouth is that it was bad.
So yeah, that was our movie adventures for the weekend. I ate a poke bowl outside of that, and my daughter, for some reason, has had this strange fascination with pickles for the last couple of years.
AKA her entire life.
And she was dying for this strange pickle pizza that's local to us. It's called the Tickle My Pickle. I'm not making that up.
Uh-huh.
And so I ordered a Tickle My Pickle for her, a 14-inch Tickle My Pickle.
Joe,
I want you to know this is a safe space, and if you ordered the Tickle My Pickle for you, that's okay. We're here for you.
It was worse that the waitress had to say it in front of a pretty big crowd that I ordered the Tickle My Pickle.
You ordered the Tickle My
That
Pickle?
is terrible.
Yeah. But, you know, if you're a regular there, I'm sure you're used to that. But why would you name your item? I don't understand. But anyways, it was, pickles on it, some kind of
Obviously.
other dill. There was ranch,
There
all
was
kinds
bacon.
of craziness. I dared not try it because I'm on a diet anyways, but it also just didn't sound good to me. I'm not a big pickle guy, though. How about you guys?
It sounds revolting, if I'm being honest, and I do like pickles, but you know what? I like pickles, but I don't like dill very much because I grew up in a very Russian family or former Soviet family, whatever you want to call it, and Russians just have a way of putting dill in everything, like so much dill. You'll
What's
get
the
like
deal with that?
potatoes, and they'll be like grassy potatoes. I'm like, that's not what anybody wants.
No.
That is brutal. I feel like I couldn't even stand the smell of that pizza the whole 25-minute ride home.
It was pretty rough.
Yeah,
I won't lie to you.
That was brutal. You don't like pickles either, do you?
No, I'm pretty anti-pickle. I like bread and butter pickles. Those are pretty good.
Yep. So that was our exciting weekend. Mike, how about you?
The weekend was pretty good. So honestly, I mean, I was at a work conference for most of the past week, and every day that I was at the conference, I was with coworkers from I'm going to say 7 or 8 a.m. to 10 or 11 p.m. every day.
Oof.
And I really like my coworkers. I love my coworkers, honestly. But even so, my social battery drained to absolute zero. It'd probably hit negative territories if that's possible. So I've just been chilling this weekend, playing some stuff. I went to see Novocaine. That was pretty solid, aside from, like I was mentioning to you guys earlier, like so much funny stuff was in the trailer. I feel like I hate when they do that. Just give us a teaser and stop spoiling everything in the trailer. But it was a fun time. Otherwise, I haven't done a whole lot, and I feel like that's kind of the point. Oh, I'm getting my taxes done today. That's super fun.
Woo!
You want to hear more about that?
Yeah, tell us all about your taxes.
We just did ours. That was super fun as well.
Yeah.
Hey, we got a refund. I'm always like, I feel like a winner if I walk out of there with a refund.
It's my goal in life to never have to pay taxes again, because I've made mistakes in the past. Well, to be fair, one of the mistakes wasn't even mine. One time a lady just didn't file my taxes.
Yeah, great recommendation by my sister, that tax lady was.
But
Wow.
yeah, no, so that's my goal. If I break even, I'm happy.
Yeah, she was literally like, oh, I didn't file them. Okay, can you do that now? It's
That would
been
be-
almost
it would
a year.
be great if you did.
And we're probably going to be penalized soon. So catastrophe was avoided, but still, I don't want to go through that. I don't like tax season too much myself.
Does anyone?
But in fact, it's even worse.
CPAs maybe.
As a sole proprietor, it's like all through the year, it's kind of something you have to keep track of. So every time I make an expense, I got to go log it. You're thinking about taxes way more in this situation than, you kind of just think about it when you work a regular 9-to-5 job just towards the end of the year, right?
No, I still think about it all year.
You do,
Yeah.
really? See?
Yeah.
They don't bother me.
Regrettably.
That
They
doesn't
didn't
sound
used to bother
too
me in my
fun.
old jobs. No, it's not. But yeah, good times here. What have y'all been playing? Anything exciting? Any video games, Mike?
I feel like I've been playing a lot of cool stuff, other than stuff I'm playing for review that I won't talk about here. I've been really into a couple of games, actually a few games from 2024 that really did not get any attention whatsoever. And the one that I talked to you guys about a little bit was Care, the horror game where you play as it's like, retro visuals and all that, but 3D. A 3D horror game where you're playing as a home health aide to this elderly man who's not in the best of health and, connected to a bunch of machines and whatnot. And he's in this just big empty mansion and you don't know where his servants have gone. Nobody else is there. I really appreciate when horror games don't rely on jump scares, and the way this one freaks you out is so interesting because every light in the house is like connected to the other lights in this strange way where like if you turn one light on, the lights behind you will turn off. So
Ooh,
it's like
I like
every
that.
time you enter a room, it's like pitch black and you have to look through the darkness for the little light where the switch is and turn it on. And every time you turn it on, you expect something to be there. And so far, there hasn't been. It's not the kind of game that gives those cheap scares, but just the anticipation of it is enough to make me very uncomfortable. It's a game that delights in making you uncomfortable. And this man is he'll wake you up in the middle of the night with this bell ringing system throughout the house, and you'll have to go find him. And he'll be like, there was something that just was like crawling through the vent. And I saw it, and then it was standing there looking at me, and then it disappeared when you came in, and you're like, what the fuck? Really creepy game, and I think it has less than 20 reviews on Steam. Like, really, nobody is playing this.
Well,
Yeah,
it sounds like
16
nobody
reviews.
cares.
Yeah, nobody cares. 16 reviews on Steam, 100% positive. I think it's, so far in the couple hours I've played, one of the best indie horror games I've ever played. And if it, I'm going to mention it in a list or something soon, because I mean, this has to get a little more attention. And the other one I was playing that also did not get anywhere near enough attention, even though I kind of get why, is this precision platformer called Parkour Legends. And it's in a similar position. It has 13 reviews on Steam, all positive. It came out in May of last year. And it is a parkour 2D platformer where you'll like jump, you'll like vault over objects and ledges, run up walls, run along billboards, and every movement in the game is very precise. Like, it's it's very, the control scheme can feel kind of complex at first, but once you like get in a groove with it, like it's one of those games where you just get into a flow state. It feels amazing to play. But the thing is, it doesn't, this is in the eye of the beholder. I don't know what you guys think if you take a look at it. I don't think it looks that good. I think it looks like, some guy had some team had a great idea for how to make a precision platformer, but didn't really bother too much on the artistic side. The environments are kind of boring, and I don't know. I feel like that's probably why it didn't get as much attention as it deserves.
That's a bummer, but if the gameplay can overcome some of the graphical shortcomings, I might be willing to give that a look. But I'm definitely interested in Care. You made that sound so damn good, which reminds me, next week, or probably this week if you're listening to this, I'm planning to do 10 of the scariest games you can anticipate in 2025. Now, Care obviously came out, but you got me thinking how excited I am to get back into horror games already, and it's only March.
Care sounds a little bit, I don't know, it reminds me a little bit of the Sorrow virus. Do you remember that one?
Yeah, the Sorrow virus.
Where there was like
that was
a
a cool
person
game.
that was like
I've
bedridden.
never heard about that.
Kind of a weird.
It only takes a couple hours.
Yeah, well, it was like a chapter
Yeah.
of a larger title that I'm not sure that ever came out
Joe,
yet.
I feel like for you, I would definitely try to check out Parkour Legends. I think you might be, even just by the trailer, you might be very intrigued.
Yeah. I pulled it up on Steam, and I see what you mean about the art. It's a little bit simplistic and not in a
Pleasing way?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like they try to do like cities and rooftops and whatever as their different environments, but there are a lot of just sort of like blocks that hang in the air that are very bland for no conceivable reason. It's just not a very cohesive art direction.
That's a bummer, but I'm glad to hear it plays well at least. So
Yeah.
I will check both of those out. Care especially, though. That sounds really neat. It got me, when you were talking about that, it reminded me of some reason of, remember Remothered?
Yeah, I was
Silent
thinking
Signs?
that too.
Where
That
the
was the other
naked
one I was
dude
gonna
is
say.
chasing you with the scissors
Yeah.
down the hallway.
It's because of the elderly
God.
client thing, I think.
You ever play Remothered, Mike? It's a really cool game. The sequel's terrible, but
Yeah,
the
I
first
did
one's
hear
good.
the sequel is terrible. I've heard it's very, very good.
Yeah, I love it.
No, I never. I don't play a lot of horror games, but I heard that Care just had no real jump scares and just kind of tries to get under your skin. And all these reviews are like, this is some of the best horror storytelling I've ever seen in a horror game. And I'm like, really? So I was like, you know what? I'll try it. If I totally disagree and it sucks, I could always refund it. And I was like, wow, hidden gem to the max. Like, this is the most hiddenest of hidden gems.
Sometimes I will get like angry within myself when I see how few reviews a game has that I absolutely love.
Yeah.
This happened to me recently when I was putting together our Steam Spring Sale. We'll talk about that a little bit later, but there's a game on that list that had like 200 user reviews or something. I'm like, this is all that paid attention to this game? I'm kind of surprised, but just goes to show that's why channels like ours are important, right, Silent Signs?
Yep.
Got to bring visibility to some of these amazing games that a lot of people don't even get a chance to hear about, let alone play. So, anything else you played? Was that it?
There was one more thing. I'm going to need you guys to look this one up, though, while I tell you about it, because there's no way for me to talk about it without you actively seeing.
On it.
It's called Get to Work. And the description on the Steam page, at least at the top of the page, is you are poor and bald. Get to work. It's sort of in the vein of like Getting Over It or Only Up, like where it's this sort of very unforgiving precision platformer where like if you fall, you fall. There aren't checkpoints, but it is kind of smartly designed to make falling not super, super punishing. But the whole thing is like a metaphor for climbing up the corporate ladder. You're just this guy who starts at the bottom and you're wearing roller skates on, like you're on your knees the whole time, but they're like wheels on your knees. You like kind of need to look at it. It's really stupid. It's really, really dumb.
I'm looking at it.
It's a good time.
I'm looking at it.
Yeah, it's I played it only a little bit so far. I've had a good time. But it's exactly as dumb as it looks. It's really stupid, but it feels good to play. Controls might feel a little floaty at times, but
For some reason, it is giving me Tony Hawk vibes to some degree.
Weird, but okay.
Yeah. In like a weird arcadey sort of way. That looks cool. So stupid looking, but
Looks stupid. I love it.
on sale right now. 25% off. Get to work. So get to buying if that's interesting. But like every game on Steam is on sale right now. But, nice.
Yeah. So those were my highlights for the time since I've gotten back from my conference. What about you guys?
Silent Signs. I don't think you did any video gaming, right?
I mean, I've played a game that I don't think I can talk about yet.
Yes, you are working on a review that is under the dreaded embargo. So
It's top secret.
I'll talk a little bit about Metal Bringer. I did make a video on this. We didn't get to do a full review. We got it the day of release, I think. So I kind of just was able to play maybe 3 to 4 hours of it so far, and it's pretty damn good. It got me thinking. When I first did the news story a couple weeks back on this podcast, I was like, I never played this series. And then I realized, I did play Samurai Bringer way back in the day.
I didn't realize those were connected.
Yeah, I didn't either until I started playing. I'm like, this makes way more sense now. And it's very similar to that game in a lot of ways. But obviously the theme here is mechs. And it's not just mechs, though. There's these characters known as labors, and they're android humans that your main character then takes control of. And you send those into battle. And then that labor can also get into mechs. So it's a combination of mechs and androids, I guess you could say. And basically you're just going through a big open area, well, multiple open areas, defeating enemies, getting stronger and stronger in a roguelike progression, and gaining more things for your mechs, more weapons for your arms. You can dual wield in this game. Very arcadey feel to it, very challenging, slow progression, but a whole lot of fun. The main goal is obviously to get to the main boss for an area, defeat that boss, and so on and so on. But really enjoying it so far. I know we talked about it a little bit on the podcast. Be sure to check out the full video that is live right now. Did you see any of Metal Bringer? Silent Signs? I don't think you saw me playing it, did you?
I don't think so. I think you were playing this while I was at work. But I have to say you explaining the plot to me just made me remember that we've been watching explanations of various concept albums.
Yes, that's right.
Because the new Coheed and Cambria album came out this week. In case you don't know.
I love the visuals in Metal Bringer. It looks really cool.
It does. It has like a 3DS voxel meets pixel art look.
Yeah.
Almost like a filter over it. Really incredible looking.
I remember Samurai Bringer being really good.
Yeah. It was a good game. I like this one even better because I'm huge into mechs. I like the anime aesthetic and all that stuff. So far, so good. I can't really give a final verdict on it, but I'm greatly enjoying it based on like 3 to 4 hours I think I put in. So
maybe this is a silly question. Is there ray tracing in it? I'm just looking at the trailer and seeing all these like very precise reflections. Is it like
yes? There is actually a toggle for ray tracing. I was very surprised by that. You don't see that in too many indie games, do you? But really impressive. And the sound in this game, you got me thinking. It actually fully utilizes my 5.1 setup. So you get really cool, like bullets whizzing by you and stuff in the background.
The first indie game I remember using ray tracing like really effectively and everybody was like mind blown was Pumpkin Jack. Do you remember that?
I do, yes. Pumpkin Jack.
Like, yeah, ray tracing. We were like, wow.
And another one, more in the AA territory, I would say, is Observer. You remember that game?
Yep.
That was one of the early ones to use ray tracing. But
I never really played through that one, but I heard it was really good. I think
you would probably like it.
Bloober's best before Silent Hill 2.
Yes, I think you would like it if you're into the cyberpunk aesthetics and all that kind of thing. So.
Totally.
You love me some cyberpunk.
Yes, so cool game. They've done an updated version, I feel like, at this point, too. So you can get a more definitive experience. But yeah, that was all I played outside of doing a shit ton of lists for the channel over the past week. And let's hop into some news. What do you say? Steam Spring Sale, obviously that's the big one. We did 2 videos on this, Silent Signs, for a total of 25 choices for you to pick between. Blasphemous 2, Lacuna, Strangeland, those are just some of the games that I threw on this list. Androdunos 2 is like $1 or something like that.
Damn.
There's some crazy deals. I think this is a really good sale. You can get Undertale, for whatever reason you don't own it, for 99 cents right now. And that's not the only game. There's a bunch of like dollar games even. So this is a great sale. Did you pick up anything, Mike, or check out the spring sale?
Well, I picked up a lot of things. I hope I actually play them. Yeah, I picked up a bunch of things. I just have a thing with indies. It's like if they look good and they don't have that many reviews, I'm like, oh, I'll buy you. Come here, little indie.
Any like real steals you can think of that you grabbed?
Yeah. So there's one I would love to mention, just 'cause it's also one of those with not very many reviews, but I haven't actually tried it yet. It is called Raccoon Roller. It's a 2D precision platformer, or 2.5D, I guess, where you are a raccoon who rolls up in a ball and rolls around everywhere and grapple hooks to different points. It looks like a good time. It looks like a very good time. It looks very cute. I don't know if this developer has done anything else before or not, but that just looked really cool. I picked up Bloodless on Ophidian's recommendation.
The parry game.
Reviewed that one. Yeah,
Yes.
I do love my parry mechanics, so I thought that would be great. And I picked up The Root Trees Are Dead, which is a sort of... My understanding is it's sort of an Obra Dinn Golden Idol-like, where it's sort of an investigation game. And it has overwhelmingly positive reviews at 97% out of like 1,600 reviews-ish on Steam. So that felt like hopefully a slam dunk. We'll see.
Yep, that's the Steam Spring Sale, folks. It's looking pretty good. I think it's running until the 20th. So take advantage of that. You have just a few days. If you're listening to this in public feeds, this might even be like the last day you can grab something in that sale. So be sure to do so. Story number 2. Gal Guardians, Servants of the Dark. It's got a launch date and a date for a physical copy. March 27th, you're going to be able to grab this one digitally on PS5, Switch. It's also coming to PC. There's going to be a 10% pre-order discount on the eShop available actually right now until launch. So mark your calendars, the 12th of June as well. You could grab the physical for you physical collectors out there. We reviewed the first game, absolutely loved it. Of course, they had the controversy with the name Silent Signs, where they had to change their name from Grim Guardians because they got sued.
Yep.
And so it became Gal Guardians, which kind of makes more sense anyways, because I don't know if you know this, but this is connected to the Gal Girls universe.
Galgun?
Galgun? I'm sorry, why did I call it Gal Girls? The Galgun universe. And that's the, of course, horny anime game.
That was starting to remind me of Churn Vector. Remember Churn Vector?
I don't think so. No, what is that?
Okay, well, look it up if you want
Google
to.
it.
And
Google
for whoever's
it.
listening, just not safe for work at all. Don't look it up if you don't want to. But it's a stealth game where you come all over your enemies.
Oh, Jesus. Wow.
You sure do. Yep.
Brutal.
You sure do. It's very furry and it's very... It exists. It's a thing that somebody had in their head and was like, I'm going to make this, and then they made it. So
that makes Galgun seem relatively tame in comparison. But basically, yeah, you're shooting little Japanese schoolgirls with these pheromones, right?
Yeah, so maybe not so innocent.
Getting them excited, getting them all worked up. And
it's gross.
It doesn't sound quite as brutal as
not my favorite.
what Mike
Let's
described
put it that
there.
way.
But in Gal Guardians, it actually doesn't have a lot of that sexual stuff going on so much. A little bit of the humor here or there, but for the most part, really fun Metroidvania titles. What I liked about the first game in particular was that it's a co-op Metroidvania, so you can actually play it with a friend. So I'm quite excited about this sequel. Sounds like you're going to get more of the same here, but they're going to open up the world to outside of the castle as well for you to explore. And the cool thing with the original, it pulled the old Symphony of the Night trick where towards the end the castle would reverse and you get to go through it again. And I thought it was a really great game, so I'm excited about this sequel. Either of you have any anticipation for the new Gal Guardians? I'm assuming not, but I know it's not your genre.
I mean, I like Metroidvanias.
It's not my thing. I could see Metroidvania being fun as a co-op game for me, just because anytime I'm terribly lost, somebody else can be like, hey, this way. I think we go this way.
It's a trend I really like. In fact, we've played a couple like this, Silent Signs, where we end up doing 2-player, and I find it a lot more fun because you're right. You do sometimes get lost in these games. You're wandering, and 2 heads are better than 1, as they say.
Sometimes it just makes us fail together.
That's true, which is better. At least you don't feel alone in your failures.
Misery loves company and whatnot.
Next story. This is all about Frankie, the critically acclaimed first-person parkour horror game. It's coming to PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X and S. The game was previously released on Steam last year. Finding Frankie. So if you're a fan of Five Nights at Freddy's or Poppy Playtime, those kind of games, you should feel right at home here. This one looks like it's a game show. It seems like it was very well received. Came out in October, I want to say, of last year on Steam. I like these games. My daughter's huge into Poppy Playtime. They're entertaining. I'm finding they're getting more and more poorly made as we go here. And they're
Not
kind
surprising.
of starting to rush them out a bit more. But this one looks cool, and I'm always a sucker for a game show theme. What's that movie we watched, the devil one? What was it called? Where it's a talk show?
Late Night with the Devil.
Late Night with the Devil, yes. I kind of got that vibe from watching the trailer for this game. I like stuff like that, where it's like meta talk show or meta game show. Pretty cool.
I also noticed they have the giant transparent piggy bank, or I guess it's a bunny bank in this one. Reminded me of Squid Game.
Oh, yeah, good call. Good call with the money dropping in and all that.
Yeah.
It looks creepy. I would never play it just because I have such an... I get so irrationally terrified when I'm being chased in a game. I really, really don't like chase sequences in horror games, and these games seem completely built around that. So I just, even though I would enjoy them, I could never find myself actively wanting to play. It's too much.
I would definitely avoid the Poppy Playtime series then, because there are so many annoying chase sequences in those games. I wanted to throw the controller. I was doing it for my daughter's sake, and I just got through it. But yeah.
Yeah, I never tried them.
Chase scenes.
Never tried
Chase
them.
scenes are not
for
fun.
me.
If you're going to play a game that's popular with the youths, I would suggest starting with the Band of the Adventure.
That's a fun game, actually. I really like that game.
Or even Hello Neighbor.
Yeah. But some of those puzzles are really hard in Amanda the Adventurer.
They're good, though.
They are good. I liked both games. All right, last story. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles are back. Lots of Ninja Turtles games over the last few years. This is Tactical Takedown, an upcoming turn-based beat-em-up from acclaimed developer Strange Scaffold. They've done I Am Your Beast and Click-Holding. Did either of you play any of those?
Click holding, excuse me?
Click-Holding, yes.
I did play Click Holding.
That's what it's called. I'm not making that up. That's the real name.
Okay.
So, yeah, we talked about that a little while ago, I think. So you are in a hotel room with a masked man whose face is kind of weirdly distorted.
That's
and
right.
He gives
Oh,
you
this
a
game.
clicker. And yeah, he gives you a clicker, and he like kind of gets off on you like clicking it faster, and like clicking it in
Yep.
one corner of the room and clicking it facing the door, and it's like
Got it.
this weird sexual
So it's
fetishy hostage situation.
It's exactly what it sounds like then.
That
Got
is
it.
so
Got it.
freaking weird to go to a tactical Ninja Turtles game after something like that.
Strange Scaffold has strange in the name for a reason.
Yeah. And this game does actually have a very strange art style. I don't know if you both saw the trailer for it. It's definitely a tactics game, but like lacking in animation, almost like it's a tabletop or board game, like the way the pieces move.
Or like you're playing with
Okay.
figurines or something.
Yeah, so I think it actually looks kind of neat. I'm excited for more Ninja Turtles anytime I can get Turtles games. You know, as long as they're good. They're hit or miss, but there's been some good ones in the last few years. We had Shredder's Revenge and some of that. What was that roguelike one? I can't think of the name off the top.
I can't
of my
either,
head.
but that was also pretty
I think
good.
it's Splinter's Fate or something like that.
Something.
Sorry. Someone correct me in the comments below, but it was pretty good. We reviewed it on the channel, and I can't even remember the damn name. But that was it for news. So I guess we'll hop right into our staff question, which, of course, you all can participate in the comments below if you are watching/listening on YouTube. And today we're talking all about game addiction and whether this is a very serious thing that we should all be concerned about, or if it's just more of a minor problem that is talked about more than it should be. Now, I am of the mind, Silent Signs, that any addiction should be taken seriously. Some things we think of as more dangerous, such as alcohol addiction or drug addiction. However, game addiction can be very dangerous. I've actually seen people that are addicted to games. I've known people that are addicted to games, and it's had very negative effects on their health for sure, with them not leaving the house, with them not wanting to communicate with people,
Spending all of their money.
you know, not prioritizing important things in life over games. So I think it's very serious myself. I think you should treat any addiction seriously. How do you feel about this? I'll start with you, Silent Signs.
Yeah, I mean, I guess you have to kind of define addiction, because anybody who plays a lot of video games isn't necessarily addicted.
We're
to
talking
video games.
obsessively playing games.
Right. So I think you need to be very clear that just because you play a lot of video games doesn't mean you're a video game addict. That's not necessarily what we're talking about here. We're talking about people who prioritize purchasing games, playing games over basic life necessities, going to their jobs, you know, feeding themselves or their families, having their own housing, things like that. So when gaming becomes that high of a priority in your life over, basic living, then obviously it's a problem. It can cause problems in your interpersonal relationships. It's an addiction like anything else. If you're drinking too much, you're not, taking care of yourself or your relationships. If you're doing drugs, same thing. If you're eating yourself to death, same thing. Anything.
Working to death.
Sure.
Yeah, all kinds
sure.
of different
I mean,
addictions. They're just not the ones we always think of, are they? Like, alcohol is an easy one because it has very, very violent effects.
Hell, there's even people who are addicted to exercise and they exercise themselves to death. Like anything in that high of a dose can be dangerous for your health and well-being, mentally and physically. So gaming is no different from that. People have died from gaming addictions.
Yeah, I remember stories, I think it was out of China or Japan, somewhere where World of Warcraft players were just unable to stop, and it actually ended up killing them.
Blood clots from sitting too long, not feeding themselves or hydrating properly. I mean, it's definitely, those are extreme cases. And, they can negatively impact your life in less noticeable ways than literal death, but definitely an issue.
I can tell you for sure, I've had some very long cram sessions playing games where I'm sitting there for, it could be up to 4 to 5 hours straight of just playing, even 6, 7 at some points. And after that, you definitely feel some wear and tear, not only on like your brain and your mental state, but your body. Like you really need to get up and move once in a while and get things rolling. It's not healthy for sure.
Yeah.
Mike, your thoughts on gaming addiction?
It's funny you say 4 to 5 hours straight because I think some people who play games would consider that amateur hour.
I know, right? But
I'm kind of like you in that I think the most I ever play a game straight is maybe like 4 hours, and that's pretty rare for me. That's very rare for me. But at that point, I start to even sour on the game a little bit if I'm doing it that long. I start to be uncomfortable and like kind of, hungry. Maybe I have a headache or something. I'm just like, it's too much at once. Where with gaming addiction in general, I don't know if I can view this super objectively. I've never understood the role of sort of MMOs in gaming. As somebody who's never been into them, I always kind of wondered, like, why would you play this game that demands so much of you and is sort of designed to get you hooked people were playing World of Warcraft, like, 12 to 16, maybe more hours a day, like just sacrificing everything. I mean, I feel like it's very hard to look at that sort of gaming pattern and be like, oh, that's fine.
Well,
That's
I feel
not
like
a big deal.
You could say the same thing about any kind of addiction, right? Like, why would you start cigarettes if you know you're going to get addicted to the nicotine? Like,
I would say too, if I could add to MMO too, I think a lot of people get addicted to these games because maybe they're not always the best with personal relationships or
social
meeting people.
skills.
And this is a way for them to actually talk to people and feel comfortable, and they know they have something in common. And so you can get sucked into that.
Yeah, right. That makes it kind of next level too, huh? Because you have relationships within the video games, not just...
And then there's a real guy or girl on the other side.
Exactly. You're not just going in and like,
there's a Netflix documentary about that, about a guy who was, I'm forgetting the details, but I believe he had some sort of physical disability that made it very difficult for him to get out and meet people. And through World of Warcraft, he like had a life. So, I mean, there's a really fine line. It's like if somebody truly wants to be playing a game most of their life, and that's just how they make their connections and everything. Who am I to tell them no? I mean, who am I to tell them, no, you have a problem, get it taken care of? But, Silent Signs, like you were saying, there comes a point, and I don't know where that line is because I've never been here, but there comes a point where you do have to still make sure you're taking care of yourself and, what real life social connections you have and work and all that. And it feels like that line could be really thin, like thinner than some people think who are, quote unquote game addicted.
Yeah, I think it would definitely take a bit of, self-awareness and self-reflection to kind of realize you've crossed that line too, because it is a very fine line, I would say. At what point are you no longer enjoying the actual gameplay and just doing it to feed an addiction?
Yeah, I agree, Silent Signs. I think like just because an addiction isn't as common as other addictions doesn't mean it isn't serious. So in the case of game addiction, it can be very serious. Yeah, just like alcohol can be very dangerous and very serious, and any drugs really. So it's just a different form of addiction. That's all.
And I don't think it comes from a place of judgment. I mean, any addiction is a problem for a reason, right? It's hard to stop, and it's hard to be that self-aware where you realize you've crossed that line.
I imagine both of you at some point have found yourself addicted to something throughout life. I've been addicted to work at times, and I know that got unhealthy, and I know that I had to do something about it. So recognizing that is important too, and not being afraid to talk to people about it either, I think, is a big step as well.
So some games now, even as far as I've heard, like I think my friend told me Civilization does it. They have like, if you've been playing for a while, they have like a prompt that comes up being like, hey, you've been playing this for a little while. Maybe like get up, stretch your legs, have a snack, use the bathroom, whatever. Like,
yeah.
Have you seen this before? Do MMOs do this?
I
feel like that is something to create self-awareness a little bit.
I don't think that's the worst idea. I know I always appreciate when there's streamers on Twitch or wherever else, and they say, hey, every 35, 40 minutes, we're going to get up, stretch, take a break, and get away from this for a little
Or
bit.
even on Netflix, you're watching a show, and they say, hey,
Oh, yeah,
still
Netflix yells at us
yeah.
sometimes.
Like, maybe
sure.
you should get off.
Not a bad little thing to implement in games going forward, I think. It's like, but you kind of walk this fine line where you don't want to call people out necessarily.
No.
So it's like, oh, we want people to keep playing this game, but we want them to be healthy at the same time.
Keep playing this game in a healthy way.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I'm sure there's resources out there for folks that, if they're taking a step back and saying, hey, maybe this is me. I'm sure there's resources out there. There's resources for gambling addiction, right? I'm going to look into it.
Yeah,
And we'll see if
sure.
we find something. We'll post it in the description box, just in case.
And let us know in the comments below. Have you known anyone that's been addicted to games? Do you have any experience with this? Do you think the whole thing shouldn't be talked about like we're talking about it? Either way, we'd love to hear from you. In fact, Silent Signs, before we get out of here for the week, we're going to read some comments from last week. Barely Magic Mike, of course, was on business, but we what was our topic last week, actually, now that I think about it? We talked about retro games versus modern day games.
Modern
right?
games, yeah.
Yeah, so we have a few comments. Some are related to that. Some were just nice, so I thought we would have a little positivity to end the show here. First comment came from Ungrateful Duck 750. Hey, gameplay on the background. Very nice. This is referring to the fact that I've added gameplay footage to our YouTube version of the show, so people can enjoy some of that. Definitely looks better, I feel like, even if it's just glances from time to time when minimizing a game. So I didn't realize that people were actually paying attention to the video. I had just thrown up like stock footage.
Sorry about
stuff.
that.
But I'm glad people are paying that much attention to not only listening to us, but they have the video up on the side too. So what I've done is the good folks over at longplays.org. It's a great resource. I use them quite a bit. Always credit them, of course. I find a playthrough that I like, and I just toss it over the podcast. So it's something to look at least while you listen. So thank you, Ungrateful Duck. I'm glad you noticed. And yeah, we used Gex 3 because we were recently talking about Gex on the show and how it's coming back. And Ungrateful Duck here seems to be a Gex fan on top of that. One of his favorite mascots in the 90s. So not the mascot you think of that comes up as a favorite often, but I liked Gex too. We talked about that, Silent Signs. You liked Gex growing up.
I did. I liked a lot of those mascot games.
Mike, what were some of your favorite mascot games?
Ratchet and Clank, easily.
Nice.
Sly Cooper. I really wish they would bring Sly Cooper back.
Same.
And, there was one game, I feel like nobody has ever heard of this game, but I'm going to try, you guys. It was on Dreamcast, and I think it might have been only on Dreamcast, but I might be wrong about that. It was called Super Magnetic Neo.
I don't recall.
Have you ever
Nope.
heard of that?
Surprised. No,
To be
I'm
fair,
I'm surprised I haven't heard of it.
Never had a Dreamcast, so.
I did have a Dreamcast, but I don't know that one.
It was a 3D platformer where you would magnetize yourself, and like the different sort of precision platforming elements like required you to switch like red, blue, red, blue, red, red, blue, blue, whatever. Like I remember it being very hard. I was also young. That might have influenced how difficult I thought it was, but I did feel like it was pretty difficult. I have never seen this game anywhere else ever. Like I sort of secretly hope that somebody will port it to Steam or something, or even just a straight port, even if it's not like a remaster. But I hope I see it again someday because I'm curious how it holds up. It was.
Hey man,
it was
we
a
live
good
in
time way back
in
when.
a strange time where very unexpected sequels come back to life now, so you never know, right?
That's true. I'm waiting for my Mort the Chicken sequel.
If you Google it, you'll be like, what is this?
Another comment here from Xbox Clown 8922, like the name. Brutally speaking, retro games were often far better than what we have today in many ways. Back then, you'd simply buy a game and that was it. There was no incomplete release or heavy reliance on DLC. Most games from a few decades ago were complete experiences right out of the box. For example, Sega Genesis classics still stand out as better than many modern games. Silent Signs, your thoughts on that?
It looks like they were also supporting indies as well. So the retro games and the newer indie games are where it's at. And yeah, I would tend to agree with that. They're the ones that were really innovative for their times, respectively.
Mike, you weren't here for our big retro versus modern day games debate. It was a lot of fun, but did you have any quick thoughts on that topic?
Yeah, you might know how I sort of feel about it, and that what are we considering retro at this point? But I think that I'm very used to sort of modern game design. I don't like when checkpoints are spread far apart. I don't like when a platformer has limited lives that, set you back further when you run out of them, things like that. So I can find stuff like that very challenging with retro games. It can make me give up kind of quickly and have not very much patience. But I think in terms of creativity and polish, I mean, compare it to like the AAA space now, and I can see where people are coming from. It was arguably a better time, but now we have so much more variety that you can still find very, very good polished experiences that do have that sort of modern touch. I don't really play retro stuff. It's not usually my jam unless it's like a modern retro, a retro looking game with modern gameplay design, but
Wow, I'm the only one on staff that's done it for retro games.
No, I like retro games, but
I'm just busting you.
I'm with Mike on some of the modern innovations have improved quality of gameplay. Like, I think that a lot of the difficulty of retro games stemmed from just kind of restrictions of the hardware that they were on.
Yeah, that led to a lot of creativity, though.
It led to creativity, and it led to a heavy degree of challenge.
Even things like the camera in old platformers, like that was sometimes a real pain. That is
it can vary. What are we talking about here? Are we talking about like PS1 early 3D? Because a lot of that crap is pretty rough to go back to. Are we talking about classic SNES 2D platforming? That stuff still holds up beautifully in a lot of cases.
It does, but it was also super challenging. Like, look at the Mickey Mouse game on the SNES, where it was super hard for literally no reason. Why was that game so hard?
Well, there was a reason, and my understanding is they made games really hard back then because they knew about the renting market. So people were going to rent these games and potentially beat them and never go buy them. So that was actually a big factor.
I also think it was limitations of what they were working with, too.
They didn't have to make the game stupidly hard in every case, though.
Yeah, especially when it was, Mickey Mouse. Presumably children would be playing it.
But, you liked the challenge back then because you only got so many games. So I can appreciate it. Nowadays, it is interesting, though, because we bitch about challenge so much on this channel and how we get annoyed with things. Yeah, back then, we just kind of grinded through it.
I don't like challenge for challenge's sake. I don't mind it.
I did just look up a Reddit thread on Super Magnetic Neo, and the thread was called something like, is Super Magnetic Neo, or do you guys think Super Magnetic Neo is the most difficult game on the Sega Dreamcast? And a lot of the comments like, yeah, the game is brutal. Like, it's very, very hard. And I was like, okay, maybe I wasn't just being like a kid bad at games. Like, it was a hard game. I don't think I ever even finished it. It was very hard. But yeah, if whoever owns the rights for that one is listening to this, bring it back. Give us a Steam port.
I will look into it. I'll see who developed it and published it. It'll be fun to look that one up and see what it was all about.
It was developed by Genki.
Oh, Genki. Yeah, I think they might still be around. I'm not sure. Cool. We got one more comment here. I think businesses... this comes from Slick Magic. I think businesses have this idea that they have to protect the bottom line and maximize profit. Sometimes this leads to innovation, but other times we get season passes and online only. So, what is your reaction to that, Mike?
I think if we're talking about maximizing profit, then we've lost sight of what makes a great game.
Fair enough.
I think that's why the indie space is so great. I think that as soon as you're thinking about profit in terms of how to design your game, you're already watering it down. It's already becoming a game designed by a committee, so to speak. I don't think it has any place in the conversation. There's never been a time where like an executive saying, how can we make this game more profitable has led to a better game. I mean, you know, maybe it meant more development time. Maybe it meant more resources to add more creative elements. And, you know, saying there was never a time might be incorrect, but I feel like by and large, what are we talking about?
I feel like that's also the same thing that's wrong with a lot of things in the modern age. For example, streaming services, food services, everything is subscription based, and you have to sign up and pay a monthly fee and get this said thing, and then that rate goes up, and you never feel like you really ever own anything anymore. It's like an endless cycle.
Yeah, we've talked about this multiple times before on multiple episodes, so go back and listen to all of our great podcasts across Spotify. Here on YouTube, we have a whole playlist in our podcast section. YouTube Music, you can enjoy the show. Thank you, everybody, for writing in. Keep those comments coming. We will read them at the end of every episode of Outside of the Echo Chamber going forward. I promise. I won't forget. I wrote it in our actual notes now, so I'll remember.
He forgets things all the time, though.
do.
If he does...
Can I make one more interesting comment?
I suppose so. Sure, why not? As long as it's interesting.
So I was looking up Genki, and I find it very interesting that they just released their first game on Steam their first game on anything in 16 years.
No shit.
They just released like a month ago or something.
What timing?
A comeback of the Tokyo Extreme Racer series.
Oh, really?
That
Cool.
just came onto Steam. Literally, the only thing before that they released was like, I guess they published Katamari Forever on PS3 and some Wii game that I've never heard of. So
yeah, the name goes
we're talking
back.
about them now, and it seems that they are back in some capacity. And Tokyo Extreme Racer on Steam has 95% overwhelmingly positive reviews. So
I didn't even
looks
know
pretty
about
cool.
that. Yeah, I got to check that out. Really cool.
That wasn't the one that we were looking at the other day, was it?
No.
That was another Tokyo racing
That was
game?
Japanese drift racing.
Okay, my bad.
Totally different thing. I think, anyways. Yeah.
Oh, who knows?
Yeah, but it's cool to see these old companies come back, though. I question why Acclaim is coming back. I don't know if you all heard about that, but Acclaim is being resurrected, which is pretty weird. But they're going to be making indies. Who knows? Maybe they want to, like, restore some pride to the name again. All right. Next week, going to be a weird review to kick off the week. I think this is going to go live Tuesday, Silent Signs. More of a retro game on our channel, believe it or not. This is Dragon's Lair The Legend, and interesting history here. This game was released in North America way back on the Game Boy.
Wow.
But it was a very, very almost impossibly hard version. The Europeans actually got an easier version of the game. This is going to be the first time North Americans have officially gotten the European version of the game. And it's going to be put on a cart, and you're going to be able to buy it that way as well. We were supplied with the ROM, so I'm going to be playing through a bit of an old-school retro game. Not something you would really call AAA by modern-day standards, I'd say. I thought it'd be a cool thing to look at. People love game history on our channel, and Dragon's Lair is a series that goes way, way back.
Yeah, I always think it's neat when they do stuff like this.
Yeah, a Game Boy game on the channel, so you can look forward to that. I'll be doing a full review if I can get anywhere, because they said, yes, this is easier, but it's still brutally dick-crushingly hard, so...
Beautiful.
We shall see on that. Upcoming indies will be live for everyone now. Patreon members, of course, at the Legend tier and above always get that show early, an ad and sponsor free. And I'm going to be doing a list of 10 nightmare-inducing indies releasing this year, which should be super exciting. I'm already ready for the spooky stuff, like I mentioned earlier. A couple of reviews coming up. We can't talk about those just yet, so pretty stacked week on the channel overall. Silent Signs, any closing words?
I don't think so. I think I have a video game I got to go play.
Video game to play. Mike, video game to play for you too, I imagine? 1, 2, or 3?
Yeah, same. Got stuff to play on my end.
All right, then. Well, then you know how this show ends. Did you make it to the end? See you next time.
Can that not be how this show ends?
far too long, you, the gamer, have been denied honest gaming coverage. Indie developers and publishers have lost their voice, but no longer. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, and head over to patreon.com/idreamofindiegames to join this epic campaign for indie visibility. The echo chamber trembles as our message grows louder. Voice to the voiceless.